Good afternoon. It's now 4 p.m. and calling the meeting of the Calvert County Police Accountability Board to order. We do have a quorum, and just to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. You have in front of you the agenda for today, and you've had an opportunity to look at it. Do you have any changes to the agenda, recommended changes? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Recording in progress.
Do I have to start again, John? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Motion to approve the agenda.
It's been moved to approve the agenda by Dawn.
A second.
Brian, second. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Agenda we have in front of us approved. I want to thank all of you for your flexibility to change the meeting. I have a commitment that came up that I can't get out of, so I appreciate your flexibility in not having to change the day of the meeting. Give you a quick update on some things that's going on since the last meeting. We continue to have our weekly, we call them weekly planning meeting. That's Scott Deacon, who is chair of the administrative charging committee. He's in the audience here. We meet weekly with Liz and Lanita to go over anything that we have in terms of how the whole process is working, what we have planned for the future, when we plan to meet with the local law enforcement and things like that. So those meetings continue, and we're having a lot of success for those meetings. But before I go any further, we do have a new member of our team here, Lanita Thomas. She's the Senior Human Resource Analyst, and she is in the position that Cindy Allen had before. So she's Lanita, this is your first meeting, so I'm welcoming you to the Police Accountability Board meeting.
Thank you so much.
And I don't know whether you know the members. Okay, then let's take a second, just go around the room and introduce yourself so that Lanita knows who you are.
Welcome, Alfonso Hawkins.
Thank you.
Dawn Lister.
Sue Justice.
Brian Cedar, welcome.
Lisa Baroni.
Suzanne Benedict.
And Leslie Piper, welcome.
Thank you.
And Lanita has a law enforcement background and correctional background, and she brings a lot of experience to the team. So welcome aboard. I know you've been here a couple of months, but not since we've met. The last time we gave a report on the status of training around the state. As you know, the ACC, the Administrative Charging Committee, has to be trained before they can do business. And as of last week, or as of today, there's only one county that has not been trained. That's Dorchester County. So they made a significant progress since the last time I gave you that update. We also meet bi-weekly regarding any legal questions, and we include the county attorney and the director of human resources into our planning meeting. We include them in to talk about any kind of legal issues that may come up, and we have one today that we're going to give you an update on. I'm proud to report that the ACC is, there is no backlog of cases. I'll give you a summary of the cases right now in a few minutes, but we don't have a backlog, and we've caught up on things, and things are moving forward. We've had one meeting with the sheriff's office since we last met, at least one meeting, and we continue to have really productive and effective meetings with the sheriff's office with the intent of trying to improve the process, because we both are here to serve the citizens of Calvert County. Liz continues to maintain contacts around the state to answer questions that other jurisdictions may have regarding PAB or ACC. And we thank Liz for continuing to do that. The last item I have is the outreach. Scott Deegan and I, there is a, I would say, pretty close to final draft of a presentation that we have offered to any organization that would like to know more about the PAB-ACC process, that we would go out and present what it is and also answer any questions that they may have. So we're currently in the process. We have one potentially right now scheduled for early June. It would be the first one. It may be with the League of Women Voters. We're in the process now of trying to just finalize that date. Any questions on the update? Okay. I want to give you an update on the summary of complaints. We said we would do that on every time that we met. So the first one is for the Sheriff's Office. And just to share with you what you have on the screen, you have it in your packet also. For the first 6 months, the last 6 months of 2022, July 1st through December 31st, 2022, there were 41 complaints. From January 1st to May 17th last week, there have been 13 complaints. Of the complaints, cases not eligible for review, 9 cases reviewed by the ACC so far, 44, and cases resulting in administrative charges, 6. So you can see the trend. At the beginning, we had more complaints, and trending right now for the first half of the year, there are less complaints. And I just want to emphasize the fact that I don't see a correlation between the number of complaints in terms of the performance of the Sheriff's Office. What I see is that there are complaints that would have normally have come in, the Sheriff's Office investigate, the ACC looks at it, and most of the time we have been on the same page in terms of the disciplinary action. And I think that's a good story that we can share, because it's important that, one, that we depend on the Sheriff's Office to do the investigation and the solid information that we use to make a decision based on the approved statewide matrix, disciplinary matrix that we have. The, let's see the next one. Next one is just a summary, the same summary showed as a bar chart. So any questions or comments on the number of cases from the ACC? Scott, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, sir.
Okay. Sheriff?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Want to recognize that the sheriff is here, and we have what is it, operations standards? Officer of Professional Standards, Captain Parrott. And we also have with us a new major, David Canning. Congratulations on your new position,
Thanks, sir.
and welcome aboard.
I have a few comments, but I'll tell you regarding the complaint paragraph.
Come to the table. Sheriff Ricky Cox.
How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Once again, I'd just like to say thank you. Anita, welcome. She's been great so far with us. But I just want to say thank you again for, you guys are citizens that signed up to do this job to make the citizens of Calvert County better as far as the complaint process goes. And I just want to say I appreciate it, because it does take somebody special to do that, what you guys do. Since we've had productive meetings, I think, trying to make the process better. I think we're kind of leading the edge on this thing as far as the whole state goes. People, other sheriffs are contacted me and what we're doing. So I think we're kind of leading there in the state. But we talked about the car GPS thing. I saw this on the new business. Was kind of like my idea since January to have the ability to for supervisors to see the speed inside the vehicle for deputies responding or what call. And I think it's already available in our cars. It's just a matter of hooking that up with the system. So I think it looks pretty easy, but very time consuming to get that going. So CALIA position, with the help of the HR director, Ms. Melly Woodson, we've been working on this since you brought that to my attention, which I agree with you. We look like we're gonna get that off the ground rolling, and we're gonna put the job position out, because we're gonna have a CALIA manager like every other department has that manages that whole, there is a lot of work that goes with that when you're accredited. But it looks like we're gonna be able to put that job out in July, so we're gonna get that rolling, hopefully be accredited by the end of the year. So that's my goal. That's all I have right now to report to you guys, but I just want to say thank you and all that you do.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you and your team
Yes, sir.
for
Thank you.
what you do. Okay. With that, we want to get an update from the Maryland State Police complaints that are relative to, relevant for Calvert County. Just to remind you that for the state police, they come under a different review process at the state level. But if there are complaints from Calvert County, it may go there. And so we'd just like to get an update to share with the citizens any kind of complaint that may have come to the state police. So we have with us today Lieutenant Mears. If you could come forward for a presentation. If you want me to do this, I'll do that, or,
That's fine.
okay.
There's really not too many things to click on.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Mr. Perrin, I want to again thank you for inviting me here to provide this information. Like Chair Cox said, I think Calvert is well ahead of most other counties and jurisdictions in the state, and that's no different even with our participation with our local PAB. I pulled our internal affairs and I pulled our administrative hearing office and some other commanders I know across the state, and no other barrack is participating like we are, providing information. But like all of you, I believe in the spirit of community because I not only work here, but I live here. So with that, what I do have is some data I pulled and put together for you, and I broke it down by citizen complaints and internal complaints for the years 2022 and 2023. In 2022, we had 2 sustained citizen complaints, and we had 2 unfounded citizen complaints. In 2023, we had 2 unfounded citizen complaints, along with 2 sustained internal complaints. And the sustained internal complaints are things that happen internally that our supervisors catch, or the command staff catches, or that is brought to our attention through vehicle pursuits that we reviewed and find not to be in conformance, or anything else related to that. And these are just a listing of the cases for 2022 and 2023 for both the citizen complaints and the internal complaints.
Okay. And for those complaints that were sustained, the state ACC looks at it and determines what the disciplinary action would be.
They ultimately have to say so, absolutely, but we review them internally,
Right.
And endorse them, and we also review the statewide disciplinary matrix and weigh all the factors involved, just as the ACC would, and we make a recommendation to them. And what I can tell you is that in all the ones that have been reviewed by the ACC and come back, those cases that were both sustained involving discipline, and those cases that we found after our investigations to be unfounded, those that have come back to us so far have been, there's been conformance across the board between us and the ACC. So we've all been of the same opinion. There's been no different opinions levied. And I can tell you that even for the discipline within the matrix, you got a lower end and you have an upper end.
Mhm.
And we recommended an upper end, and they agreed with us there. and we've recommended the lower end, and they've also agreed with us there.
Okay.
But I just wanted to point out that there's been no different opinions
That's great.
between us and the ACC.
And no appeals to trial board?
Not yet.
Okay, good, good. Any questions for Lieutenant Mears?
So that was the first slide.
All right,
On the second slide, just to give you an understanding of, you can see the number of complaints we have. We have multiple different categories of incidents that we report out on, specifically show of forces, use of forces, departmental accidents, and vehicle pursuits. It's just a listing of those. And I include those to also say that despite the number of complaints, which in my opinion are relatively small, it's very good considering the number of incidents that we're involved in on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. Just to highlight, in 2022, we made almost 16,000 traffic stops, made 141 DUI arrests, 169 adult and juvenile CDS arrests, and 289 warrant arrests. And so far this year, we've made over 6,000 traffic stops, made 43 DUI arrests, 45 adult and juvenile arrests, 105 civil citations, mostly for possession of civil amounts of cannabis, and 17 adult CDS arrests, and 82 warrant arrests. So we've had a lot of contact with the citizens, with the public.
okay, good. And that's across the entire state, right?
Our troopers,
Yeah.
primarily in Calvert County, but we do have those who work from time to time elsewhere.
Okay,
But most of those numbers were from,
for Calvert,
those numbers were from Calvert.
all right. Questions or comments? Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the update so that although we're not directly involved in that process, we are, if there's a appeal to the trial board, it comes back to Calvert County. So we appreciate the fact we haven't had to activate that piece of it.
Right.
And we appreciate as well as the sheriff's office, the state police, and what you do to serve Calvert County.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the last slide had your information on it. Yeah, email, phone number, so it's there. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda we have is the new business, PAB jurisdiction, eligible complaints of police. Two things here. One is the fact that we look at complaints that, of incidents that happened July 1st and after. So there have been a couple complaints that we received that went way back into 2021. It's not eligible for us to look at. It was already, had already been investigated and a decision made by the law enforcement. And because it was before July 1st of 2022, it would have been under the Leo Bar, the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights. So we've had a couple of those that come to us, and we had to turn them down because we can't look at those cases. We didn't have jurisdiction at that time. So there was one person that was not happy about that, but the fact is we're gonna follow what we're responsible for and make sure that we address the cases from July 1st and beyond, July 1st of 2022 and beyond. The other piece of the eligible complaint is that we're in the process of working with the sheriff's office on an MOU. And one of the things we did talk about in the last meeting we had with the sheriff's office was when we look at the policies, there are some policies that we don't want to consider complaints about those sections of policy. One example would be, I think in your policy, you may have some details on maybe dress or haircuts, I don't know. But if there's a citizen complaint about that, that's not something that actually directly impacts a citizen. So those things will be handled through the normal process in that law enforcement agency, and it would not be considered by the ACC and the PAB. Now, we have to identify what that list looks like. We're in the process of sitting down with the sheriff's office and going through those things to determine what are those things that would not warrant a full-blown investigation, time of the ACC to look at, so that we can focus in on complaints that really directly impact citizens. Any comments or questions on that? And how does that affect us? Because any action by the ACC, one of the things that they do is look at, is there an opportunity to improve policy or enhance procedures? And that would come to the PAB like it did back in February. We got a couple here today that we're gonna talk about also. So that's the connection between the ACC and the PAB that we have. The administrative charging committee discipline recommendations. This is one area where I want to just to make sure that we all understand that process. You're aware that the process of a complaint comes in, it's investigated, it comes to the ACC after being investigated, in this case by the sheriff's office, it comes to the ACC. The ACC has 30 days to act on that complaint. That is to review it and make a decision, and that decision is forwarded to in this case, the sheriff's office. And the sheriff's office has 15 days after the ACC issues an administrative charge against an officer to review that recommendation and either concur with it, which in that case, it would just be forwarded to the officer involved, or the sheriff in this case can increase it. It cannot decrease it. So just want to make sure that we understand that when recommendations made by the ACC, it'll go to the sheriff. The sheriff has 15 days to look at it, decide whether to increase it or concur with it, the recommendation made, and that would go to the officer involved. Now, the other piece of this is that we wanted to come back and we get notification as to what was the final decision, because it is now left the ACC. It could change, but when it comes back, so to close that loop, what we want to do is to get that information as to what was communicated, and it's done in a form of a letter. I'm pretty sure we get a copy of it so that we, being the ACC chair, so that we can close the loop on that case. That's probably the final step of that case, unless it's appealed to the trial board. And if it's appealed to the trial board, it's out of the hand of the ACC anyway. Any questions on that? Okay. Oh, you guys are quiet today. Let's see the next one. The Administrative Charging Committee, just went through that one. Police misconduct. Since our last meeting, the question came up in terms of the definition of police misconduct in the regulation that was effective July 1st, and we needed a clarification. And that clarification dealt with how it was defined, whether it was 3 things that would have to happen, or it was an or instead of an and. So I want to turn it over to County Attorney John Norris so that he can put some legal talk around that one.
Thank you, sir.
In your packet, you have a letter from the Attorney General's office. It's signed by Sandra Benson Brantley. And you see it's addressed to the Honorable Michael A. Jackson, who's our senator for District 27 here in Calvert County. For those who don't know, Senator Jackson was also former sheriff in Prince George's County. He is a former delegate and now senator representing Calvert. I believe it was Prince George's where he was served as sheriff. The letter starts off with the definition of police misconduct, and the real issue is what happens at the end of line number 2. But for those at home, let's read the definition of police misconduct as it's found in the public safety article at section 3-101G. Police misconduct means a pattern, a practice, or conduct by police officer or law enforcement agency that includes 1, depriving persons of rights protected by the Constitution or laws of the state or United States. 2, a violation of criminal statute. And 3, a violation of law enforcement agency standards and policies. The issue was whether or not that "and" between number 2 and number 3 is conjunctive or disjunctive. Generally, "or" has a disjunctive meaning and has a conjunctive meaning, and they may be used interchangeably when it is reasonable and logical to do so according to jurisprudence. In this instance, the Attorney General's letter found that to interpret, and I'm quoting from the 3rd page, to interpret PS 3-101G as covering only criminal misconduct would frustrate the legislative purposes of replacing the LEOBR, the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights that was repealed when this was adopted, with the statewide accountability system and standing up new procedural mechanisms clearly designed to cover non-criminal forms of conduct. Such a conjunctive interpretation would therefore be improper. In summary, PS 3-101G must be interpreted to set forth the disjunctive list of categories of police misconduct in order to effectuate the obvious intention of the legislature. That is, if there is a complaint alleging violation of deprivation of rights protected by the Constitution or laws of the state or the United States, that's sufficient for a complaint to be heard by the Administrative Charging Committee. If there is a violation of criminal statute under the agreement between the Charging Committee and the State's Attorney's Office, that is first referred to the State's Attorney's Office, and whenever either 1, no criminal proceedings are determined warranted, or the criminal proceedings are brought to their conclusion, then the ACC would review those. Or 3, and I didn't say "and," I said "or" because it's read in the disjunctive, so most people see "or" as being disjunctive. So a violation of a law enforcement agency's standards and policies would constitute a police misconduct that could be reviewed by the Administrative Charging Committee. Discussed earlier, the chairman presented that we're working with the Sheriff's Office to define what are the substantive policies, what are the substantive standards that would rise to the level of review by the ACC versus those that, while they may meet the technical definition, would not be an efficient use of taxpayer resources to be reviewed by the ACC. So, unless there are any questions, hope that's legalese to English. A little bit?
No questions? This is really a critical request that we made, because if there is a misunderstanding or confusion around regulation, one of the responsibilities of the Attorney General's office is to go in there and look at it and issue an opinion or response to clarify it. In this case, if it stayed as an "and," we would probably get 1, maybe 2 cases a year that would have qualified, which I don't think was the intent of the legislation. So the interpretation that we have broadens it out so you don't have to meet the requirements for all 3 of them, which is nearly impossible if that had not changed. So we went the route of going through our senator to the Attorney General's office to quickly get a response, and they responded. And we appreciate the Attorney General office doing that, and the senator, and also our county attorney who was the impetus for pushing and getting that done. John, we thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Wow, we're really moving today. Policy recommendations. We have a couple of policy recommendations. As the sheriff had mentioned before, we had a couple of policy recommendations back in February. We've talked to the sheriff's office, and he mentioned Khalil, and he's working on that. And I want to thank you, Sheriff Cox, because you're stepping into a job new, and there's some things, of course, that you want to set directions on and clarify expectations. And as you're doing that, we are throwing some things at you as opportunities for.
Yeah, I've had sleep this whole year, so.
Oh, good, so you're used to it. So we're working closely with you to identify things that we see as these cases come through. And we appreciate you and your team jumping on these things. And some, as you said, the GPS one you've already looked at, and you're going ahead and proceeding with some changes for that. I think that's a major piece, because in the past, we've gotten quite a few speeding complaints. And this would not only give us data regarding speeding, but it will also give us data as far as location.
I was gonna comment on that too as well.
Okay.
We've been requested to cut our budget, so everything costs money. So that system that we talked about with the GPS and the cars, it costs $15 per car. So to activate that system, so I've been trying to find money to actually activate that system. If you could be an advocate for me for that too as well, to get that thing rolling.
So how many cars? That's a one-time charge, and then there's a monthly charge?
Correct,
overall?
yes.
Is that 15 a
To
month?
activate that feature,
It's 15 a month?
correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
It seems like it'd be easy, but then you look at everything costs money these days, so.
No, I understand that.
I would've had it on by now, but it's,
I'm familiar with that.
yeah, the
that
budget's been tight
technology.
this cycle, so it's something maybe we can work out.
Could someone send us some detail on the cost breakdown?
Correct,
Because if we're going in and help support that, I'll need that detail.
absolutely.
But I think this is very important in terms of that it's more than just a speeding kind of software. You know, locations. I thought the public safety folks know that now, right? When there's an emergency in the area, don't they know where the cars are?
They do.
Come on up. And state your name.
Yeah, Major Dave Canning with the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. Some of the technology in the vehicles now, like the radios and the laptops, they have GPS ability.
Right.
It's not really geared to what we're looking for. A lot of it's after the fact or for different purposes, where this can give you, it can send real-time alerts to supervisors, and it's a lot less red tape to get through to get it.
Right.
You know, we don't have to go through a different agency to get the information or meet certain standards to pull the information. So it's just a lot
Okay.
cleaner.
Okay.
It only works when the laptop is activated.
Yeah.
Can we, you gotta come up, we can't hear
Yeah,
you.
he was saying it only works when the laptop is activated.
Okay,
So this would be on the vehicles all the time,
Be on
on
all
duty,
vehicles.
off duty, you know, it's just always running,
okay.
providing that
Seems
real,
like
it's
a
real-time
safety measure.
information.
Argument too.
Yeah, the federal,
Do you have that?
yeah, the federal agencies have been using this for, I don't know what Lieutenant Murin's, if they have that capability, but I thought it would be free with our New World system, but it costs money for $15 a car per unit per month, and it's, I mean, you add that, I mean, that's a big ticket there. So,
Okay.
and
Right.
like me as the sheriff, I want to be accountable for the taxpayer, you know, the citizens that live here, so. But I think this would be a good feature that keeps everybody safe.
I think it is too. I think it's similar to the feature that the school buses have,
Absolutely.
where you can track the speed of the school bus. You can also estimate what time it's gonna get to a stop and that kind of stuff when you load the right data in there. So I think it's a critical piece of software to have. And it just having the software would change some behavior in terms of speeding, because you know that,
And then analyzing, I mean, what made me dive into this is analyzing what complaints are coming in, and a majority of our complaints coming in have been, you know, citizens' complaints of speed of deputies. So I think this is one measure that we can put in place that could help track it, one, and two, keep the deputies safe and the citizens. So
yeah. I think also, I'm assuming this feature is probably built in somewhere. Over a period of time, you can look at your coverage. You look at where the incidents took place, who do you had available for those incidents, so you'll be able to do any shiftings if you need it.
And just ballpark, if we'd say it's 100 cars, that's about 17, or was it 17,000 a year, something like that, 15,000 a year. So if we have 200 cars, double that, so somewhere in the neighborhood of about 36,000, I think.
Yeah.
Is that 200 cars?
So we were looking at, so the legislation put in place for body worn cameras for all deputies, we put that in place. And that is a big ticket also. And then looking at getting another camera inside the vehicle was another additional $5,500 per car, then you had to pay for the service. But that would be able to, you know, if the lights and sirens are on, it gives the speed, times, locations, all that stuff. But you're talking a lot more money than $15 a month. But
Yeah.
we do have some vehicles that do have the inboard cameras in there now with the taser system. So the Axon system, I'm sorry. But that's another thing to look at too, as well as a good feature, but which again is a big ticket item. So
Yeah. I think if you can leverage technology to improve the security and safety of our citizens, I think it's worthwhile.
absolutely.
At least I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, because right now the body worn camera, once it's activated, all you're seeing is a steering wheel. You're not seeing a whole lot until they get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But that's been very helpful, the body worn cameras. I don't think the ACC could really done an effective job without that technology.
it's been good so far, and you know the deputies have adapted to it. So it is a kind of a learning curve when it was first put in place. Because
Yeah.
myself, when the major here, even the captain came on, we didn't have to. That's one less thing we had to worry about was a body worn camera. But now I think it's been a good feature all around.
And just for the public, just when you, without getting into any specifics about a case, what it does for us when we look at that, we can get an appreciation for the level of support that's needed on certain incidents that you have to go out, and how you can observe the process of how you secure the location, how you make sure you have the right information, how do you make sure that everyone's treated fairly, and the whole bit. I think it's not like a #1 selling movie, but it is good to have that kind of information when we deliberating and looking at these cases. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other recommendation, so on the GPS one we talked about, I think we have to make a motion, John, if we support that, or going to the commissioners, and I want to get a feel for the committee as to whether you would support the sheriff's office request for funding for the GPS technology in the police cars. You want to talk about that a little bit? If you,
Can I come on up?
yes, sir,
Is this thing on?
it's waiting for you.
Robert Harvey, State's Attorney. I would also want to add the support of the State's Attorney's Office to that
Okay.
modality. One of the things that happens when there is a case that results in criminal charges, it's almost always more than one deputy. Many times there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or even 10. And we don't always know who's actually there.
Yeah.
We're told in police reports that Officer A, B, and C was there, but sometimes we find out that E, F, and G were also there.
Right.
So this GPS technology would allow my office to know, excuse me, who's there. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me go see what this is.
And I think that's too, as well as we talked about earlier in our meetings, with the different response, you know, priorities in there, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the way they're spelled out. And if a deputy is running a radar assignment and he has to exceed the speed limit to catch up to that car without lights and sirens to pull them over safely,
Yeah.
it gives that information, an email to that supervisor to notify them what they're doing. So I think that's a good way to track it as well. And the $15 a month, I think, is a lot cheaper than the $5,500 per car. So that's something we can get in place now.
Yeah.
And then long term, we can outfit each car with a
And
camera also.
we got maybe one or two complaints about, someone may complain about the time it takes to get to, an incident. With this GPS, you can see exactly what time that happened. So it's a lot of good that can come out of this software.
I have a question. Is the GPS software that you guys would be using, is it something that can be turned on or off by the deputy, or is it always on?
No, I mean, once they're signed in the computer, they're on duty. It cannot be turned off now.
That's a good thing. Any other discussion? You ready for motion? I am.
I think one of the difficulties that you're gonna have is the enabling legislation only provides for an annual report. So
Okay.
this is outside that.
So we cannot go to the commissioner outside of the annual report?
Well, you're charged with it making a report annually
Yeah.
to the Board of County Commissioners to make recommendations on improving policing and results within the county.
But does that stop us from being included in a petition the sheriff's office might make? You know, if he is petitioning for funds from the budget or whatever, couldn't he put something in there saying that this action is supported by the PAB and the state's
Or the
attorney's
PAB
office?
could show up.
Correct, yeah, or you can give public comment once we're asking for the funding,
Yeah.
or they can give recommendation.
Right.
Individually as members of the PAB, perhaps, but we also have to look at Chapter 11 of the county code, which pertains to all boards and committees. And while you are appointed to make recommendations, again, it has the annual report provision, and I'm not sure that you might not run afoul of some other requirements in Chapter 11.
So does it specifically prohibit us? Or
It only
just saying-
enables it. So by only enabling an annual report, I would say, yes, it is precluded that you,
You're saying a motion would not be in order here?
correct.
Okay. Then we can do as individuals, we can go
Yes.
forward.
Mr. Perrin carries a lot of weight, so
Yes, he does.
I have faith in him.
No pressure, no pressure.
And I can tell you, there was a
Okay.
lot of consideration that went into appointing every single seat at this PAB.
Yeah. Okay. For that's the GPS. The other recommendation relates to the use of electronic devices. And during the case review, the ACC charging, the Administrative Charging Committee found that the Sheriff's Office policy use of cell phones and portable electronics in agency vehicles, and how that ACC sees that policy being implemented is not consistent with the Transportation Act. So we're asking that you look at your policy compared to the Transportation Act and make any adjustments that would be needed.
Can you expound upon that,
Yeah.
Mr. Perrin? What is your?
It's related to, for instance, it's a cell phone policy for the state that applies to everybody. And there's also a portion of it which says if you're at a traffic light, for example, what you can and can't do. For instance, you can't, let's see if I got this correctly. If you're at a light, you cannot, is it a texting piece? I'm looking at you, Scott.
You said you could look at your
you can look at your device, and you can read it, but you can't text on it, or something like that, something to that effect. But you have to look at both of those regulations, and you'll see the discrepancy between the two.
Not correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the statute is a lot more restrictive.
It is. You'll want to look specifically at Transportation Article 21-1124.1 and 1124.2. Though it's specific to, well, it says while driving, but it also, look at the definition of what it considers to be driving, because being stopped at a red light seems to fall within the definition of driving.
So Captain, did you receive the recommendation that shows the regulations?
This is what you just did, yeah.
Yeah, what you just gave?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So look at that and see where it's not in sync. That's what we're saying.
It's not one, sir.
Where it's not in sync.
Yeah, I
Because
kind
it's-
of reviewed it today, and I found ours to be a little more restrictive. So that's
Okay.
why we're kind of a little curious as to what part. There's
That-
there's a thing in here in the transportation article that there's an exception for law enforcement in their official capacity and their official
Right.
duties. And our policy states, doesn't say you can use it during official duties, it says during an emergency situation, which to us reads a little more restrictive than what
Right.
the transportation
Okay.
article.
Could you look at it and we'll,
Yeah, yeah.
give us a quick note on it in terms of what you see and what we saw.
Yeah, and I think of the experience on the board can tell you, my experience in Calvert County, everybody has the scanners, and they know what we're doing before we get there. So, a lot of that communication is done I'm not saying every case, but a lot of cases are done, so it's not over the air. You're communicating with your
Yeah.
beat partner up north or in Prince Frederick. But, I'm curious of, what you guys are thinking. Our next meeting, we can talk about.
Take a look at it and if it's more restrictive than the state, then I assume that's okay. If it's not, then we have to get them in sync.
Sometimes we're going on to, we're rolling up the scenes, we're getting, pictures of our agency phone of what the person looks like, or
Right.
missing kids, or,
I think another piece of this whole thing is just, we have laptops, these MDTs in our vehicles that we use all the time for computer-aided dispatch,
Oh, yeah.
and they get us to our locations, and they're interacting with the laptop, on a regular basis, so that's another thing that's not really covered in the transportation article.
I know,
It's
I
kind
have
of-
to.
Yeah, yeah.
and there's a lot of distractions in a police car, I can tell you.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you guys are welcome to come on and ride along, whatever you want, anytime you want, but, you got the radio going, you got the computer, sounding off, and, most guys have two phones, and the supervisor's calling, just, it's a lot that goes on.
I just wanna make sure the PAB and the ACC understand that from a law enforcement perspective as a major outline of what's.
We can't hear you.
You have to go to the mic.
You gotta go to the mic. Go to the mic and,
Captain Brent Parrott with the sheriff's. We just want to make sure that the PAB and the ACC understand that when interpreting any types of complaints that may come before you to be reviewed, as how the major relayed what the transportation article does say.
and if we don't feel they're in sync, then we'll let you know and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I just wanna
No
use some
problem.
common sense with it, that's all.
Yeah.
Major, do you have this section, the exclusion section in the transportation?
I don't have point one with me, I have point two with me, but I have a copy for you guys. Do you want a copy?
I do.
Have it.
Give it Okay.
So I'm not sure if
All right.
some of the exclusions you were mentioning were in point one, which I do not have with me, but.
Mr. Parent, I'll also look at the CLIA standard on that also.
Okay.
It may change anyway, so,
Yeah.
or what they're telling us, or
Yeah,
advising
that
us. to
should be easy to get that one up to date.
Yeah.
Let's look at it and see if it needs to be changed. Okay. So we have two recommendations here. I think last time we voted on whether you agree with those recommendations so that we can send them forward. So if we agree with those recommendations, one on the GPS, and on the use of electronic devices, I'll entertain a motion.
Give the motion.
Susan? Move, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Suzanne. Discussion on the motion to approve the two recommendations so that we can forward it to the sheriff's office for further consideration. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you very much. I think, let's see. Jurisdiction, let's see what we have left here. We have a slide here to show this policy cited in majority of cases. And here you see, looking at that slide, that the 1-824 performance of duty is one that comes up quite a few times. 1-820 sheriff's office equipment, standard of conduct, or conduct toward the public. So those are, when we look at a complaint, we relate it to the policy that applies. We look at it, see if the policy was followed. If not, then we talk about that and see what we need to do about it. Okay, that's the last slide. I think that covers, oh, did I take the vote?
Yes.
All right. Any member of comments? Anything? I did forget one thing. We mentioned before that we wanted to elect the vice president, vice chair of the PAB. So think about it, and when we get together in August, we'll have that on the agenda for your vote for vice chair. And we have 3 members' terms are up at the end of June, so hopefully we see you back here. Hopefully the 3 of you terms are up. We'll let them continue. So when we meet in August, we know who's on the board. Any comments, questions from the members of the board? Wow, quiet group today. Okay, do we have anybody for public comment?
Those who have joined us virtually, if you wish to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand function or press *9 if you called in, *9 to raise your hand. Mr. Chair, nobody's raised their hand online.
Okay. Anyone in the room for public comment? Okay. There's no one for public comment. There's no reason for me to read the comments on the public comment. Anything else we need to talk about? Now I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Second. Stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be in August.